Hello readers, I'm Jessie Quinn from Cup of Books, and today I am back. For the past week I have been trying to decide what video I wanted to return with. Did I want to do a book review? Did I want to do a comics corner? Did I want to do a NaNoWriMo wrap-up? And finally I just decided that all those options require way too much effort, so instead today we're going to be talking about books I own multiples of. Because I can. The first edition of Interview with the Vampire, the first book in the Vampire Chronicles series by Anne Rice that I owned, was this little American mass market paperback. I bought this in high school, and I am fully willing to admit that I read this book specifically to impress someone I liked at the time. And I decided that if I read this book, it would give us something to talk about. That was my brilliant scheme. This edition I will probably never part with because it's got notes in it. You can see my notes. I also have a hardback of this now. I found this at a thrift store for $1 and I had never ever seen this book in hardback in person before. I had always been told that hardbacks exist. The internet said that this had been published in hardback once, but I had never ever seen it in person. It's shiny. So cool. On a similar note, I have this edition of The Tale of the Bodied Thief. This, I believe I've mentioned before, but it's actually my favorite in the series so far. I also own this edition now. It is a hardback. I found it, I think at the same thrift store. I found Interview with the Vampire in hardback, and I just had to have it. I read the 6th book in the series, The Vampire Mon by Anne Rice, as part of the Booktubeathon this year. When I was in high school, I had a really hard time finding paperback or hardback editions of this series. I just saw mass market paperbacks, but this was actually one of the only books in the series that I was able to find in paperback at a bookstore. So I bought this, proceeded not to read it for 7 years, and then eventually got around to it. But I ended up picking this up from a thrift store for about 50 cents this summer because I just wanted my collection to match. Now I have this really cute Signet Classics edition of Northanger Abbey. It was a gift from one of my closest friends, so I have no intention of giving it up anytime soon, despite the fact that I also have this edition, Penguin English Library editions. They have the orange spines and the really cool covers, and they just feel really nice. When it comes to Pride and Prejudice, I have this edition, which I bought at a thrift store. It was published by Grossup and Dunlap, and the great thing about this one, there are pictures from one of the Pride and Prejudice films in it. And I also own the Penguin English Library edition of Pride and Prejudice. I have this bind-up of Sense and Sensibility and Persuasion by Jane Austen. When I bought this, I actually was looking for a gift for a friend. Same friend who in fact bought me that edition, little edition of Northanger Abbey. And I believe I got her this book as well, and then decided I wanted one for me. And then of course I also have this edition of Sense and Sensibility. I also have the Penguin English Library edition of Persuasion, but I can't get to it right now. Now I technically own 3 different sets of Lord of the Rings. But because I have a sister who decided to commandeer several books of mine when I left for college, books that I left at home thinking they'd be safe, I no longer have the first set of Lord of the Rings that I owned when I was 13 in my possession. I am continually bitter about this. My second set of Lord of the Rings is a set I picked up at a comic book store of all places. They had some used books lying around and I figured, what the heck? I need a new edition of Lord of the Rings, so I got these. They're not that attractive. We have Fellowship of the Rings, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. But I love this series so much, it was only inevitable that I eventually buy a pretty looking regular paperback series of this trilogy. Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. I think some folks can understand how I have 2 sets of the Lord of the Rings. I think some folks can understand why I have 2 editions of Pride and Prejudice. Not that many people can understand why I have 5 different editions of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. My very first edition of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is the edition that I have had since I was was 11 or 12. You can probably see that it's pretty beat up. The spine looks like this. You open it. The reason this book is completely falling apart is because it is my favorite book in the series, and this was my go-to feel-good self-care book from when I was about 13 to about 17. So this is my first edition. When I was 16, I went to Germany for a few weeks as part of an exchange program through my high school. I was just about to get on the train. I realized I had forgot the book I was reading. I ran into one of the little shops that sell magazines and stuff, saw this, bought it, got on the train thinking I had bought a German edition of Harry Potter, even though the title is clearly in English. I don't know what I was thinking. And then I open it and realize it's the UK edition, and it's in English. I really like this edition because it has, of course, the Grimm on the back. And while I was in college, I was trying to accumulate hardbacks of the Harry Potter series because I did not own the set. My grandmother, being a lovely woman, bought me this American hardback edition of Prisoner of Azkaban. So I actually have a matching-ish Harry Potter hardback set. Around the same time, I was telling a friend in college about how I had thought I had bought the German edition of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. They actually got me this edition. It is the German edition, and I have read bits and pieces from it. I've read chapters here and there. Natürlich weiß Harry, dass der Zaubern in den Ferien strengsten verboten ist. I'm so sorry, my German is so bad. And then finally, because 4 editions of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is not enough for me, I went out and bought one of the new editions. The spines make the picture of Hogwarts, which is awesome, and if I had lots of money, I would go ahead and buy myself an entire set, but I don't, so I just went out and got Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm gonna go ahead and call this a collection. I'm collecting Prisoner of Azkabans. I'm not randomly hoarding them. Leave a comment below telling me what books you own that you own multiple editions of and sort of why you have those editions, whether you just collect different pretty covers or whether everyone keeps getting you this book even though you've read it